Hello and welcome to the FOGS Queenslander podcast preview of State of Origin 3. I'm Mark Braybrook and joined by three FOGS, Wally Lewis, Trevor Gillmeister and Matt Gillett. And gentlemen, does it get any better or bigger than a decider at Suncorp Stadium?
No, it never does. It'll inspire the Queensland team to produce their best. But Mark, I've also got to say that it will throw petrol on the fire in the New South Wales camp. It'll give them real reason to produce an even better performance. A guaranteed great game coming up. This will be one of the Origin classics, but it's going to take a wonderful performance from either side to be able to wrap up the series.
Gilly, get the juices flowing?
Yeah, for sure. I'd like it to be 2-0 myself, but it'll be a fantastic game, and obviously, full house at Suncorp. It would have been either way, So, and speaking to the New South Wales blokes over the years, they love playing here as well. So, because the atmosphere is the best, they reckon, of any ground they've played on as well. So they get a bit of a boost out of it as well. So, hopefully we get off to a much better start than we did the second game, because we need to produce a lot better game than we did.
Matt, one of the highlights of a career, isn't it? Decider at Suncorp?
Yeah, it is. I was lucky enough to come in my first series, and we had a decider here at Suncorp Stadium and Cooper Cronk kicked the field goal. So coming up here to Suncorp, a few of these boys have experienced it, but a decider here in Queensland, the crowd's a different level. We're different people up here. We're quite passionate, and everyone around at the stadium as well is going to enjoy it. With obviously Caxton, it's famous for a bit of pre-drinks and entertainment up there, and hopefully the boys wander up there after with a win and celebrate up top of Caxton there. So it's going to be a great night. 6 more songs.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you think about it? Like, we had a sellout at Suncorp for the last Broncos game against the Penrith Panthers, but the atmosphere is just next level when it comes to Origin on a Wednesday night, particularly decider. When do you first start, as a player, noticing that? When you get to the ground, when you're warming up, when you run out, what is it? When do you first become aware of it?
I reckon you do try and block it out a bit, but I remember even when my first year of playing and with these blokes, and they all just said embrace it. And I thought, and then you kind of, so we lost our first game at Lang Park, won in Sydney, then come back and won the third game here. It was unbelievable, but. I can see two ways. Can embrace it all and all that type. And some blokes try to block everything out and then just celebrate after it. But I reckon I've done it both ways. Kind of embraced it all and then had the blinkers on, as well. So it's preference for different people.
I think you just got to try and, as it's going to be a massive occasion for these players in both teams, you've got to just try and focus and stick to your routine that you've done all year at club footy and Origin. You just got to try and keep that as same as every week. And like Gilly said, it is a long day, so you've got to try and spread out your day, keep busy, keep things as normal. But I think once you get on the bus and you've got a police escort from down to the game, that's you going, oh wow, this is huge. We're bypassing all that traffic straight to Suncorp Stadium. Hopefully they go down Caxton Street, you turn in, it's game time.
Well, you don't want to burn yourself out either.
That's right. Yeah.
If you overthink the game, and I've said it plenty of times, that's also lucky to have Fatty as my roommate, and in good things and bad things. but he said, mate, don't burn yourself out thinking about it too much. And he was 100% right.
I'm worried about one person, Alf. How's he going to cope on a decider at Suncorp Stadium? I mean, he's been through a few, but he doesn't get any. It doesn't seem to get any.
He'll
better.
have an up and under before the game. Still,
he doesn't seem to get any better. Does he?
No, he'll be the most nervous person in the Queensland camp, and as Gilly said, he always seemed to present what he had for lunch in a bucket. I don't think I've ever seen a guy get sick so often or be more nervous in the build-up to it. But there's
in some ways, is that sort of settling for everyone else?
Yeah, I think he's good for that.
Yeah, they can see.
Yeah. And it's sort of a distraction in some respects.
And what it means to him.
Yeah, and the fact that it's part of the routine.
Yeah, well, they can, if they've got a little bit of a wonder, well, why am I so nervous? Is it something that is just for me? They look around, they see a guy of Alan Langer's experience who's not even playing. I think that tends to ease them. Look, we all have different approaches. We may look at the game a little bit differently, but I think that they'll kind of be under great ease, considering it's being played at home. Certainly New South Wales will be inspired. They'll want to prove everybody wrong, but I'm damn sure our guys would rather be playing this game at home than away. It's a real challenge.
Yeah, well, 17, Alfie's not playing, but 17 players, 20 have been selected, but 17, 1 through 17 as we go through that team list. We discussed it in our review of Origin 2. Injuries can play a role. We've lost both wingers, Queensland, but a couple of handy replacements in Selwyn Cobbo. Val Holmes moves to the wing. Dane Gagai returns. Harry Grant, it's a very painful injury, sternum, isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully they can do something with. Obviously, have that big chest guard on tonight, and a few needles might do him the trick. I think he'll be doing everything he can to be out there.
Well, you got no meat there.
Well,
There's no meat
right,
there.
He'll be tested during training as well. Like Billy won't go in there, 50-50. You make sure he's right and get the big fellas running at him at training, make the tackles, and away he goes against decider at Suncorp. So
yeah, you're right. I always used to think the two or the three injuries that were always of concern were the sternum. I was very lucky enough to never damage that. The hamstring.
You got a couple of other people though.
gave a few others a sternum shift, did he?
Yeah. Well, I won't be telling your defensive intention, Gill. If you're going to tackle around the head. You can't run without a head.
Gilly still teaches the kids that too.
Yeah. But there is a concern there. I think we feel very impressed seeing the way that Hamaso Tabiai-Fidow has played in the first couple of... but there is some injury concerns there for Queensland, and I think in a game of this importance, you just can't afford to gamble. You've got to go in there and to see the other guys pull out. Cobbo, he makes... I don't think he's in his career best form, but he's been there, done that. So I'm very hopeful that he's going to produce his best. He's got size, and when you have a look at him lining up perhaps against Brian To'o or Lomax, he will have a little bit of an advantage in height should there be the need to jump high for the crossfield bombs.
And Dane Gagai turned the clock back for the Knights against Canberra. And maybe Val Holmes back to the wing, where Gilly, as you know, in the 2017 World Cup, he scored 5 tries for the Kangaroos in Darwin. It might be just something that gives him a little bit of comfort as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Val's played at all, the back three positions numerous times, but the Dane Gagai, mate, fair income. He's never had an average game. And I know we used to take the man of the match votes and stuff like that, and he was always in the top 5 every game, not just in 3 or 4 every game. And he can play on the wing. He can play in the centres as well. So the beauty about that little crop he's got there, they can interchange if there's something happening. If someone gets really gassed or whatever, so they can swap over and then go back. Someone goes back to wing. It's a great little group they got there.
Gilly, I've loved watching a guy play over the last few years. He's a competitor. He hates losing, and he's got a little bit of personal pride in his competition with his opposite on that night. And he's a guy that does get pretty nervous in the build-up to game. I've watched him before they've run on, but if he's got one thing, it's an intention to please all his teammates and coach, and that's certainly something else. There are a lot of people that say, it's disappointing that we've had to make a change there. I guess it is, but to have him fill in and have his experience on board certainly is quite remarkable.
You were there, Gillo, when he did his finger in
down Melbourne. There's I played that game.
He popped his finger out at trainer with the ball.
Close to a compound fracture, wasn't it?
Come out of the skin, compound. And luckily one of the 1980 fellas was a doctor, and he popped his finger in. It was captain's run, and the boys would, and he played.
You wouldn't even
bone
know,
was sticking out of the skin.
You wouldn't have known. He just
No.
carried on
No,
as per normal.
Yeah.
And
He's one of those
got a
blokes
job
you
to do.
love having in the side
yeah.
with you. He's a competitor.
And he's one of those blokes that just plays better at Origin level.
He goes up another gear,
Yeah,
doesn't he?
and, you know, they're certainly worth their weight in gold. Those that can lift, and they were players like that at international level and at state level as well. Kurt Capel in the starting lineup. No Jaden Sewer. Is that a surprise for anyone?
Yeah, it is for me a little bit for the back row. So I think Jaden, like none of the forwards played that well. I don't think in the second game.
Yeah,
so he could have made 2, 3, 4, 5 changes, really, to be honest. I know we don't have the cattle to do that, but I mean, Kurt Capel, won't let you down. I mean, I feel for Jaden Sewer, though.
Yeah, you just come up with, you try and think of reasons for the decision that was made to put Capel in there, and perhaps it's all about stability. Billy may have just thought we've just got to get off to a very good start, not go into panic mode, not make any mistakes. And he's a guy that I don't think he's going to be able to sidestep and beat 4 or 5 defenders, Kurt, and run 70 metres and score. But he'll be out there. And one of the great things that he takes into every game is the competitive nature that he has is fantastic. But it's been the talk that he gives and advice to the rest of the players in the side. They know he's got a pile of experience there, and that tends to make guys feel a lot more comfortable going into a match of this experience.
And the bigger the game, the more important experience is.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I think they. I think what Wal just said there, reasoning for that trade with Sewer's, maybe Billy had asked a bit more from Sewer in game 2 with I'm thinking effort areas in the game with your kick chase, kick pressure, inside assist, and all those little things that matter in Origin. I think Capes does that very well and is experienced at it. So if Capes can come in, do his role there, and change the game. He's not going to, like Wal said before, he's not going to run 70. But those little effort areas that matter in that your team value, I think Capes nails that on the head.
We'll be joined by Chairman of Selectors Gene Moll shortly, so I'll be able to ask him questions like that. And also Kalyn Ponga's return in jersey number 17 off the bench. Something for New South Wales to worry about, knowing that Queensland can throw someone like Kalyn Ponga, even though he's only had one game back. Just the presence of Kalyn Ponga gives that X factor, does it not, for the Maroons?
I think so. I mean, he can play multiple positions. I think he's a great addition because, and I know Billy, you'd probably say to him, mate, you could come on in the front row. You could come on in the
he has
in the
played
centre.
middle before.
Yeah,
so
100% right.
Off the bench,
yeah, exactly. So, I think it's a great move.
Is it with him on the bench? Do you reckon that might be one of the reasons why Harry Grant's starting? Because Harry Grant would come on and give a bit of a spark. Well, they can start with that now and bring Kalyn Ponga on to give what Harry Grant would normally do off the bench. I'm just looking for reasons why that switch for Hunt and Grant in that area.
Well, as we said before, though, there's quite a few those blokes in that team that can play multiple positions. So and Kalyn Ponga's one of those. Harry Grant can play in the halves if need be. Benny Hunt can play in the halves if need be as well. So, I think Billy's covering all positions.
We'll talk with Gene about those and look at some of the key matchups. Just briefly, gentlemen, New South Wales, they named their side on Sunday night. No Latrell Mitchell, of course, with injury. So the Blues have been hit by injury. Bradman Best returns after playing in the final game last year. Do you reckon there might have been some sort of temptation to rush Tommy Turbo back, or you were mentioning before, Wally, sternum, and you brought out the hamstring as well? Too big a risk to take with Tommy Turbo?
Yeah, I think it is in a match of this importance as well. It's a big one. I mean, they probably would have discussed it for quite some time, but they're probably the injury that are most common and seem to reoccur the simplest. When I saw Bradman Best's name there, I felt a bit uncomfortable. I've enjoyed watching. Well, I haven't enjoyed watching him play in a blue jersey, but he's a competitor. This guy.
Powerhouse, isn't he?
Oh, he is. He's got the size about him, and to have him alongside Crichton guarantees that there will be some some real forceful play in the centres, if you like. They've got a bit of experience on board, and I think the reason for their selection as well is the faith that they've got certainly in their defensive capabilities. They do it very well. Been there, done that, and it's looking like a very good New South Wales team.
I was just thinking. I'm looking at Jerome Luai. Like, what would you done to Jerome Luai?
Back in your day, well, come on, be honest, mate.
Well, the bumper bars would have been up.
We might have to do another episode on this one.
He would have known Wally was there. He would have known Wally was there.
Yeah.
Hello, young fella. Say it, hello, young fella. Welcome to Origin.
Yeah. He's a guy that you can't allow to upset your input into a game. He's also a guy that will inspire the Queenslanders in different ways, shapes and forms. And we've had those playing for both states over the time. Nice of you to ask that question, but he certainly will thrill the Queenslanders.
The reason I ask that, because I used to see you, like, you'd purposely pick out the number 6, and you never used to say anything about it, but you'd pick them out and you'd try and run over the top of them or ragdoll them in defence and things like that. So that's something I always noticed when you were playing.
Yeah, he's a guy that
remains
fleet on his...
Why did you go? Obviously, they're opposite. Your opposite number, and you tried to manhandle them.
You take it one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I probably see... Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And if he gets over the top, they win. He's got a tick alongside his name, but... I probably feel that he's one guy that should be targeted consistently by the Queenslanders, almost with monotonous regularity. Just run at him. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He hasn't got a lot of weight about him, and I probably see that as being a challenge. I used to love being against somebody like that. You're right. But it's a real challenge now to the Queenslanders, and I think there'll be some targeting going on from some of our big boys.
Because I remember one game, the third game in '87, and they moved Brett Kenny into the centres and brought Cliffy Lyons into 5'8". Poor old Cliffy. He's like Van Eagle.
Well, it was he was a guy that got put into that position, Cliffy, and I felt sorry for him actually after the game.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, I did. He instantly got bagged by the New South Wales media, and he was, I felt that was one of those games where if I didn't have a real reason to play one of my better games, I never would. And he was put in. I didn't think that his game would fit in alongside Brett's, who was simply the best 5'8" I played against, daylight second. Not even close. He was a wonderful, and I felt like writing a thank you letter to the New South Wales selectors.
Trip down memory lane. Let's have a look at that side again, the Queensland side, because we're about to be joined by the Chairman of Selectors, Gene Miles. 1 through 20, question mark there on Harry Grant with that sternum injury, but we'll find out from Gene exactly what that injury status is with Harry and who will be 18th man for Queensland as Gene Miles joins us. So there is the side for game number 3, a side put together by the selection panel for Queensland, of which Gene Miles is the chairman. Gino, welcome. I've asked Wally, Gilly and Matt, as a former Origin great, is there a better opportunity for these 17 players than a decider at Suncorp Stadium?
And you're going to include me now in
Yes.
the... Yeah? Okay. Well, given what we, had to take to the table last night, through injury, and a couple other little things that were had to be changed. So this is the 20-odd players, which I didn't understand the rule until last night. And the rule is that both teams can select 20 players, and you've got up to 24 hours prior to Wednesday night's game to eliminate those players and name your top 19 players. So, you know, taking that in mind, there could be a number of changes. You know, whether Billy decides to chop and change or however training goes. But the reason that Jaden Sewell's not there, Jaden was injured after yesterday's game also, and so he's having scans. He couldn't get scans till later on this morning. So, but the support staff of the Saints said that he's very unlikely to be okay. So, hence the
wasn't dropped.
Yeah, the inclusion. No, well, a lot of people say he was dropped, but he has got issues. I think it's a quad muscle, and I think he got reported twice after yesterday's game too.
What about Harry Grant then? How confident or nervous are you about the fitness of Harry Grant?
Yeah, well, Harry will have right up until Thursday, and if Harry can't take a decent whack on that sternum, Reid Marnie will come in, and obviously he'll drop out. But Billy seems to, Billy's in contact with him every day down in Melbourne, so he's pretty confident. And Harry really wants to play, obviously. So, but that's been an issue, not just the last couple of weeks. That's been an issue for the last 6 weeks.
He's a wonderfully talented player, Harry, and I think he'll be doing his level best for Queensland.
They work well together, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Worked for a number of years now. So, and we didn't start game 2 very well, which was quite obvious. Being down that scoreline at half time. So, a few things have to change there, and obviously urgency, quick play of the balls, slowing down the rucks. Just those normal things that every coach wants in a player. So, obviously there'll be a fair bit of focus on that over the week.
I just thought too, Gino, getting back to the second game, obviously talk about Reece Walsh and Cobbo, and stuff like that. Anyway, that's to the side. But I mean, our forwards, mate, I thought were pretty poor, really in the game too. So we need to come out with a bit more aggression, I think.
Yep, and hence naming some changes on the bench. Whether Kafus could start too. You might go with the big boppers first, and then interchange them, get a good 20 minutes or so out of the more aggressive style players, which we did lack in game 2. There's no doubt about that. So, but we've learnt from game 2, and and Billy's got to talk to his assistant coaches this morning and tomorrow morning, and just see what they come up with. And obviously Harry's the key to it all. He's the only guy that's got any sort of injury within the side. So, and obviously the hammer, carrying the 14s on the bench again was a winner, but that cost us 2 interchanges because the outside back had to go off, get needled and come back on. So in the real world, that stat that we stated in game 1 and game 2 about carrying a 14 player, an outside back, which Cobbo did the job in game 1, game 2, and when the hammer went off. So it's an unbelievable stat now. Since Billy's been coaching, I think it's could be 6 out of the 8 games that he has coached. We've lost an outside back.
And so, Kalyn Ponga, mate, he can play anywhere.
Yep. Yeah, he's done a great job getting back in 10 weeks and playing yesterday. And Billy's always had plans to be in the 17 ever since day 1 of this series. And this is the opportunity now. And whether Kalyn gets 20 minutes or whether he gets 60 minutes, that's totally up to the run of the game. But he won't be afraid. Billy won't be afraid to even toss him in the middle. Just get in there and just there'll be a few tied forwards getting around in the 60-minute mark of the game. So, and he's such a talented footy player that you watched him there last night. He left some guys just grasping at air.
The faster the speed in the game, the better his input when he comes on. Targeting the tied forwards.
It must have been encouraging for you, Jim, despite the fact losing 2 wingers, that those players that were penciled in, like Dane Gagai, for example, had one of his best games in years. Kalyn returned one of his, showed that he hasn't missed a beat. That must have given you a little bit of an easier feeling when putting the side together.
Yeah, and considering we've lost both wingers,
Yeah.
Kalyn and not Kalyn, sorry, Xavier and also Murray Tuolangi. So that allows us just to push Val out to the wing, which he's he's a winger. Yeah, of course. And then Cobbo, after his little rest.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He's he played on Friday night. He played all right on Friday night. Actually, he got stuck into him on Friday night too. He was doing some old old dirty old
off the rucks.
Yeah.
And he'd be
big
good
enough to do that.
Coming out of trouble for us. I think Cobbo and Val Holmes with his speed through that ruck is going to be
Val
a
doesn't
weapon
mind.
for us.
Yeah, he doesn't mind the collision either, So
Dane doesn't mind it either.
Yeah,
no, he showed that last night. Yeah.
He can throw them too, Gates.
He's a competitor. I like him. Don't gag on.
Was there any discussion about David Fifita?
Yes, yeah. The coach was not real fussed on David's, I suppose, work rate, and obviously, the focus of being on quicker in the ruck, and Big Dave's not the quickest getting up off the ground or so. So, yeah, those couple of things went against him, but he was discussed. But we need these guys to mobile and be in the game the whole time that they're out on the footy field. And so Dave's got a couple of things to work on.
I think Dave. He obviously knows, and he's had those chats with Billy, and he knows where he needs to pick up in his game. It's the ball's in his court, sort of thing. And this game at Suncorp, you need to be on. We know what he can do in attack, but I think on the defensive side and the extra efforts, Dave still needs to work on that, and he knows that.
If there's no Harry Grant and Reid Marnie comes in, you have to name another player in the 20. Do you go for another hooker, or what are your thought? What's your thought process around that?
Yeah, we really haven't thought that far past. We were struggling last night to get 20 players because obviously Brendan Pirakura, he could play for the club on Saturday evening, so it's a bit of a juggling act. Like the Bronx are down on troops at the moment, and if we were to name him the 18th man, he wouldn't be allowed to play for his club. So it's a bit of a juggling act at the moment. So no, we haven't gone down that far. So that just goes to show that Billy's confident that Harry will be right. So he's obviously had the conversation with him, and he's obviously been getting needled up over the last few weeks, but he just hasn't been putting his body on the line. He's still favouring it, and then you can see he came out the other night, just had it with a big zipper in his head because he just didn't tackle with the body. He led with the head, which wasn't real smart.
I think Dale Shearer was reaching for the phone there when you heard that you couldn't come up with 20 then, Gino.
I saw the number come up.
So what was the feeling like after game 2 amongst the playing group? I mean, it was obviously shell-shocked at half-time down 34-0, but how long did it take after the game for the team to sort of galvanise and start thinking about game 3?
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. The individual player, I suppose, what effect does it have on them? 34-0, that was reasonably embarrassing. It was embarrassing. But to see what they did in the second half was pleasing. However, we were out of that game in the first, whatever it was, 20 minutes, so it was a long way to come back from there. So I'm sure they would have taken a lot of learning out of that initial impact. Like, once again, like I said before game 1, that game 1's the most important of the series, I thought, and winning game 1. But then you just don't know how that affects the players. Obviously New South Wales was so up for game 2, and we weren't because we knew we had the luxury of coming back here and playing. After winning game 1, you got another crack at it. Yep. So, and that's hard to coach, and that's hard to even imagine in your players, but it's there, and here we sit here now, and we're still in the series when we're coming home to play in the decider. So, winning game 1 is very, very, very special. Game 2, you can lose that one and come back to game 3, which is a luxury. But
Which happened last time.
yeah. Well, and
And a thumping in game 2 last time and turned it around.
that's
so.
right. And Billy now has had in his short coaching term, he's won game 1 and game 2 in one series, and similar series to today. So he's had 2 series like he's had today. So and it's not a bad coaching record over that short space of time. But like he said after game 2, he said, how do these coaches do this week in, week out?
Well, one of the I suppose indefinable things, you got your number 7 Daly Cherry Evans is a wealth of experience. Ben Hunt, you've got those key players that have been there before and done that. That must count. Dane Gagai, you throw into that returning. That must count for something.
Yeah.
It has to count for something.
Yeah, it does, but once again, we still need a stack of enthusiasm, and a stack of effort. Like we just lacked that 2 of those ingredients, and that was the way the game went too. With looking from a player's perspective, I've never seen, no one's ever seen domination in a State of Origin match like they had in that first 20 odd minutes, and we were just camped on our try line, and eventually they're going to break, and they kick in, get another 6, and then they get another 6 on top of that, and then a penalty, and you'd be thinking, geez, what's going on here?
Yeah, the execution of their game plan, that's as good as I've seen from a New South Wales team. When they didn't get to be able to get across the line, they made sure that Queensland were in charge of the ball when they got it from the 5th tackle, metres out from their own line. And you could see the blokes that were volunteering to take the ball away, they were doing it pretty tough. All of a sudden they'd have to kick it, and we were only 30 or 40 metres away from our own line as well. So
the petrol gauge would have been on E,
on empty.
and
Absolute.
toughest yards in the game. You've been defending your try line, and then you've got to get when they eventually do turn it over, you've just got to do those tough yards, and that's tough work. That's,
Well, the countdown now on Gene. All you can do now is sit back and hope that all those players get through and Harry's okay. And come Wednesday, July 17, this team that you and your fellow selectors have chosen is ready to do battle with New South Wales at Suncorp Stadium. As usual, thanks for your time.
Pleasure, mate.
There he is, Gene Miles, the Chairman of Selectors. These are the 20 players at the moment selected for Queensland, from Reece Walsh at number 1 through to Reid Marnie at number 20. So there is the Queensland side 1 through 17. Those 3 players, Trent Liero, Brendan Piakura and Reid Marnie, making up a squad of 20. I just found it interesting there, guys, talking to Gene, that obviously the Harry Grant situation is not necessarily as serious, potentially. Well done, Matt. As we think, because they have no plan B if Reid Marnie comes in. That they were sort of trying to get 20 players together, which is very interesting heading into a game 3.
Well, I suppose we've had a few injuries too, haven't we, at the start of this series. Obviously, Big Tino would be in there, Flegler, you know what I mean, those blokes.
Cam Munster.
Tom Gilbert as well, you know what I mean, those blokes.
There's a quarter of your side.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's interesting to see what he's turned up there.
Yeah, and Munster certainly has been a massive loss for Queensland. Every year we seem to see one key player drop out from either side. But certainly Munster, with his creative brilliance, has been pretty tough for Queensland to adjust to.
What are you expecting from Lindsay Collins and Reuben Cotter?
Oh,
Mayhem.
They've got to bring their best game, mate. Honestly, physical. Look at the physicality of this game. I think will go to another level, and it has to. To be honest, and I love them to death. They're great fellas, but they were poor in game 2. So Lindsay needs to bring his best game. As I said, no Tino there as well, so he's the alpha male. So Lindsay, he's got to have to drag those blokes with him. Reuben Cotter, we know he'll go out there and try and cut blokes in half, and that's what we need. A bit of a mixture in our forward pack. So And Nanai, I think I want to see him go to another level too, as well. So, and he can play.
Yeah, I think what Gene sort of mentioned before about potentially put Felice into that starting side, and I think put Nanai, start him off the bench.
Yeah, not a bad
idea. We know what
idea.
Felice can do. He's a big, powerful forward. We did get rolled there through the middle, and Felice is one of those blokes that can slow with good technique. You can get under that ball and slowly play the ball down, and Jeremiah can come on and do his thing. I think if we could, build that middle a bit stronger there, and that little change there will go.
Well, Gillo, New South Wales did a great job on our forwards. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But just a little bit concerned, maybe a little bit. Paddy Carrigan probably hasn't gone to that level.
He's done a lot of work.
And he set the bar so high.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't get me wrong. He's set the bar, and I'm expecting him to have a crack of a game as well. So, and they'll need to. Because New South Wales were sensational. Yeah,
they were, and to try and come up with the work rate similarly to what gets displayed by Cam Murray, he's a freak.
Yeah.
He's a freak in work rates. I was watching his performance last weekend, and I was doing the points for the players on the field, and just watching him and what he gets through is something I don't think he gets the due credit for.
Yeah, no.
He is one of the most remarkable workhorses in the game, and to be able to help the size of the New South Wales pack.
Just on the South Sydney thing, though, too, like they need to next year. They need to get someone to give him a hand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to burn.
Share the work rate.
Joy Arrow.
Yep.
But he's been in and out this year. I think he's had a crook shoulder, I think it is, and he's going to have to get some surgery. Yeah. But they got to be careful, South, that he doesn't burn himself out.
Yeah, that's right.
And New South Wales have got a pretty good bench there when you consider Isaiah Yeo comes off the bench. Spencer Lenu has been terrific. I'm interested to see how Mitch Barnett plays at Origin level. He was terrific for the Warriors on the weekend against the Bulldogs. A young bloke I watched playing under 20s for Canberra, and he's a wild thing. Whether or not his emotions might get the better of him if he comes on, but he's certainly, I suppose, from a forwards perspective, that X factor, that player that almost a little bit like Liam Martin potentially, that can do a little bit of damage.
You need them blokes in your team, but I mean without being a liability. You know what I mean? So you need that little bit of chaos, don't you? You know what I mean?
His first game too.
Yeah,
so
and
Suncorp Stadium is going to be
Decider.
Certain blokes wind up other blokes to do things.
Why do you keep looking at Wally all the time?
I didn't. But
we'll sort this out off air, eh?
But mate, you need them blokes in your team.
Yeah.
They're all. I guarantee you, most of the Queensland blokes will be looking for Liam Martin. You're not they're going to be scared of him, but I mean they're going to go, okay, I don't really want one of him really as well. So anyway, hopefully they can. Return serve. That's what I'm looking for.
And there's a bit of old style in him too. Yeah. He doesn't mind getting in, aiming for the ribs and the kidney area just as the player lets go of the ball. He gets into them, and that's got a little bit of an ability to make the guy look the next time he's carrying the ball on where he isn't standing. So there'll be a challenge there.
Well, gentlemen, as we wrap it up, a final thought from each of you as to what Queensland needs to do well to win Game 3. What's the key for Queensland in Game 3, Wally Lewis?
To be able to dictate terms to the opposition. And I think there's going to be a fair bit of pressure on the kicking game between Cherry Evans. I certainly believe that if he can run the New South Wales side around, because you take a look at the pack, in particular Crichton, Martin, Huss and Trebojevic, to be able to run them around will take a little bit of energy out of the out of their attack. But it certainly is going to be a battle of the big boys. So we can't match them in size, but we can dictate terms to them and make that dominant in attack, to be able to run them around to all corners of the field and keep the kicking game at an outstanding level.
Gillett?
Yeah, I'm with Wally. Our forwards, need to give our backs a bit more of a chance than they did in the second game. So I think that, and Darley's kicking game, I think, is going to be critical as well. So, our forwards, mate, if they aim up, we're a big chance.
Oh, yeah, I agree with the boys. It's going to be, one through that middle. I think if we, like I mentioned before, if Lee starts game through, I think we can really have a crack there and make a difference through that middle. And, again, as Gilly said, if we're doing our job in the ruck, it gives our players like Reece and Tommy Dearden, Val, and all our outside backs to come into that team and make a difference.
Yeah, and I think it'll be an important thing for Billy to make a judgment when to put Felice on the field. The speed of the game, if it's really got to a point where you can see the players are blowing a little bit of wind, that's the time to put him in to make sure that he gets over the top of them.
Just before we go, we have, for subscribers to the FOGS Queenslander podcast, one of these signed authentic match ball from Steeden, signed by Wally Lewis, and the 2023 Wally Lewis medalist Reuben Cotter. We have one a week to give away. If you would like to win one of these balls, just subscribe, put a comment down below and like, and we will have one a week to give away. So just subscribe, comment down below and click that like button, and once a week we will send a ball to a lucky viewer of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. Gentlemen,
thanks for... to be a Queenslander? Well, yes. I hope so.
It may help in the draw.
May help, yeah. So,
what suburb are you in?
Hey, Queensland.
Gentlemen, enjoy Origin 3, and we will see you on July 18, Thursday, July 18. Keep an eye out for our review of Origin 3 on behalf of Wally Lewis, Trevor Gillmeister and Matt Gillett. I'm Mark Braybrook. It's goodbye for now. Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.